Okay, everyone, we're live.
All right, it's 5 p.m. We'll call the June 14th, 2022 Fire District 5 Commissioners meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. Any commissioner absences coming up?
Yes. I will be gone at the next meeting on the 28th. I'll be in a school conference in Spokane.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Any communications to the board, Tanya?
No communications.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the May 24th Commissioner meeting?
So move.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. Voucher approvals.
I'll move that we approve the vouchers, accounts payable vouchers 197,274 through 197,398, payroll vouchers 197,399 through 197,415, and ACH payroll transfer 941 payment and wire transfer fees as outlined in the agenda for a grand total of $2,459,249.51.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers and ACH payroll. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right, any reports from 3390 tonight?
I think they have one. They have their hand up. If we could let them in, please.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
We got you.
Thanks. The local would just like to report that we had our first Saturday of door knocking this past Saturday. That's one of 8 that we have planned. We knocked on about 500 or 600 doors, had some great conversations, answered some questions. It was overwhelmingly positive. It was actually a really good time to be out in the community, and it was a reminder that we're pretty privileged to serve such a great place. So thank you. End of report.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you guys for doing that work. And it's good to hear that it's all positive out there. And I echo your comments of being able to serve a great community. So I appreciate all of their support, and I appreciate you guys going out and doing that. So thank you.
We appreciate you. Thanks.
All right, Chief's report.
Chief Meyer is going to start us off.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me participate. Just wanted to keep you a couple updates on some training and some things that we got going on in the operations division. Yesterday, Gig Harbor Fire hosted the county resource preseason meeting for wildland firefighting and strike team leader training. So we had representatives from DNR, various agencies from across Pierce County, South Sound 911. And so we hosted that, and that was some great sharing and preparing for the upcoming season. Next week, we are looking at participating in a marina drill. The Gig Harbor Marina down at the corner of Harborview and Pioneer is hosting us. This is being led by Tom Voigt and D Shift. It's going to be a multi-agency drill. It's going to be West Pierce, Key Peninsula, Gig Harbor PD, us, are going to be participating in this drill, just being familiar with water rescues and incidents around marinas. So we're looking forward to that. So you may see some activity down there next week on 6/22. And then also too, with the upcoming 4th of July weekend, we're going to be putting on extra staffing. Right now, our plan is to, if we have the workforce to support it, we're going to be putting on an additional engine company, an additional battalion chief, and a tender. And most of that staffing is going to be going out to Station 53 on that's going to be on the 3rd and the 4th, and we're looking at staffing from noon to midnight, and then if we have any larger events that may be extended. We just wanted to keep you folks in the loop about some of that extra staffing we're going to be looking at for the 4th of July. Unless there's any questions, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I have quite a bit to report today. First off, to meet the governor's change with COVID, we have to have an in-person option. So Chief Black is here in person with an iPad if anybody from the public shows up, and they can testify and watch here. And we'll continue to do that until we have the technology to come completely in person. So we are doing that starting today. Today we had Command and General Staff training. I've hired Jen O'Hare from Riverbend, who has been helping me with leadership training and with the Command and General Staff. We spent half a day today doing that, and had a great day with her. And we continue to build trust as an organization. Today we worked through how to have good, healthy conflict as a team, and how we're going to forming and storming and norming and performing. So we had a good day today. We are starting the state annual financial audit. We've already had our first meetings with myself and Commissioner Wilsey. One thing we do need clarification on with the board is the auditor has what's called a entrance conference. And we need to know if you want to, it depends on the commissioner's interest in that entrance conference. We can first either schedule a virtual meeting the week of the 27th with any of you that are interested. But if a quorum of it exists, then our option 2 would be to schedule that as part of our June 28th commissioners meeting. If a majority of the commissioners are not interested, and you would just like staff to handle it, we are welcome to do that. And we would send all of you an entrance packet that would be emailed to you rather than having a virtual or having it at the commissioners meeting. So Commissioner Wilsey will get back to me and let me know which direction to go on those.
Well,
three
actually,
options.
Chief, if we could just handle that right here, right now, I'd appreciate it. So
Great.
what is the feeling of the board and what you'd like to do? So we can either have a special meeting, and I'll get you just Kevin, just like Chief said, special meeting, or we could do it during the regular meeting next, or at the end of this month, the 28th, or we could do the email. Go ahead, Kevin.
If I'm not mistaken, with the committees that we have, budget, finance, and audit, it was normally one of us from that committee, or both of us that went to the entry the entry meeting that the auditor had, and just as the exit. So it wasn't anything that really involved the whole board, other than when we do the actual findings from the audit.
Yep. So if everybody's all right, go ahead, Tom.
Kevin's right. Historically, we've always done it by committee, but I kind of like the idea personally of having the whole board listen in. Usually 5 heads are better than 2. That's just my thought.
Alex, I tend to agree with Kevin. I think that we have subcommittees for a reason, and the fewer, I definitely don't see the need for a special meeting. I mean, if there's a consensus that it needs to be all 5 of us, I'd rather have it be at a regular meeting. But I just think historically we've had the subcommittee deal with it. And if there's any issues that need to be addressed with the full board, I think we can bring it up at a full board meeting.
The entry meeting really isn't much. It's just what he or she's gonna be doing, and then that's it. But then the exit one would be whether there were findings or no findings or whatever else. So, I mean, yeah.
What I remember is just basically introductions.
Yep. So it's not that I'd be more interested in having everybody at the findings, one at the end, but if we could just handle it with so are the two committee member or board members from the budget and finance, is somebody available or both available to attend that?
When was the date? Is that the 27th of this month?
It was the week of, so we haven't scheduled that yet. We just want to know, because if there was a quorum, we couldn't do it that way. So everyone will get the packet. That's required that you all get it. So you'll get a packet, and we'll just send invitations the week of the 27th to the Budget and Finance and Audit Committee, and go from there, if that's all right.
That works. Thank you,
Great.
Chief.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So we have started that. Last night I attended the city council meeting. There was two things on the agenda. I had went to the city council meeting previously, gave them an update on Gig Harbor Fire, and then also our bond and our levy. They asked me to come back last night and give just a quick brief update on the bond, and then they passed a resolution supporting the bond that was passed unanimous. I have emailed that resolution to you. So that was great news, and I really appreciate their support. The second issue is a little different. To back up and give you a little history, I've met with many of the council members, the mayor, and the staff over the last 6 months to a year. Many of the council members have talked to me about ways we can partner and work together. One of the ideas that they had was about fireworks. In my discussions with the staff and with the mayor and council individually, I had talked to them about trying to make it easy for all of our constituents in Gig Harbor Fire, having the same rules of the city and the county, because people don't know. They don't know the difference that we're not a city fire department. They don't know the difference between the city and county rules. And I just want it to be easy and functionable for everyone, and same type of rules. Out of that meeting, they asked me my appetite about banning fireworks in the city. At the time, I had told them that it wasn't a high priority. Of course, I'm always for safety, right? But with our bond, with our levy, with the lumps I have taken and the bruises I have taken over the years about fireworks, I was not, it wasn't a high on my priority list to ban fireworks in the city limits. I asked them to they had coordinated and done everything the same as the county. They had reduced it to 1 day. They had talked about, the county had passed an ordinance that the county fire marshal in extreme conditions, kind of like last year, could put maybe a ban in place. So the talk was to do the same with the city. They had a work session, and out of that work session, rather than that, they came out with direction to the city manager to write a ban. They did the first reading last night of a complete ban in the city, selling and firing off of any fireworks whatsoever last night. So I attended that also. There was lots of discussion, as you can see, as you can imagine. And the next reading is in 2 weeks. So it's coming again. This isn't the way that I wanted, but they're good friends and they're very helpful, and I appreciate the heart behind it. And so we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. But I wanted to let you know that was coming. I will always stand up for safety, of course, right? Why wouldn't we? But it's getting a little sticky on us because people don't know the difference between the city and the fire district, and they think that it's coming from me. But we'll work through it. And I'll be there in a couple weeks to answer any questions. And I have talked to the police chief, and the police chief is going to do all the enforcement. We won't be doing any enforcement, and I let them know that last night. We had no authority to do enforcement. So, but the police has agreed to go on every call and do all the enforcement. I said I have been clear that I'd like, it doesn't take effect till next year, that we really spend a lot, that the city spend a lot of time on messaging on how we're going to do this and how we're going to handle it. So I would say the council was not unanimous last night, so I don't know where it's going to go. But I wanted to update you that that is coming, and I will be there. Any questions or on fireworks? Okay, I got it. Discovery Elementary had an open house last week, which Chief Meyer and I and Chief Busey attended. This was concerns from parents about, I don't know if you've been at Discovery Elementary, but kind of the open door concept, especially with what's been happening around the nation and in Texas. There was lots of parents concerned about exterior doors, interior doors, noise. Chief Meyer did an excellent job, and I really appreciate him. He spent a lot of time talking about his history with that school. He attended, his kids attended, and he told them about the drills that we do and how we work with the staff and with Gig Harbor Police, and he did a great job. Most of the discussion was around the interior doors and the need to put doors inside. So we were there for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours, answering questions and listening. But we got lots of support. Sorry, I'm the chief on call. And we got a residential fire. Let me just check real quick. We might have to monitor that. I or Todd might have to leave.
Chief, this is Todd. I will cover the fire.
Okay, thanks, Chief. So anyway, Discovery Elementary, Chief Meyer did a great job, and Chief Busey and I were all there to answer questions, and it really was around interior doors, but I wanted to let you know that happened. Gig Fest, we had a great showing there. Chief Busey and I again led the parade, and then Chief Busey and I, along with the mayor, did. We sorry, my pager's going off now too. So we did Chief Busey and I judged the parade along with the mayor, and it was a great showing. We had a lot of people there walking in the parade, handing out candy, and then we had a booth set up with our prevention division. So it was fun to be back in the streets and get to know the community and be there all weekend, and I had a great time. Update on the division chief. We have narrowed it down to 7, and we will be doing Zoom interviews on June 20th with 7 candidates, and then we'll narrow it down from there. So I'm pretty excited about the 7 candidates that we have. Station 59. Looks like we got a worker. Station 59 is coming along great. We've done a great job. Chief Black has been leading that and doing a great job getting that station up to speed. In the last week, we found out that there was problems with our fire alarm system and the panel. So we've had a delay with that, and it could be a week to 2 weeks until we get back into the station. So we're still out at 53, and staffing 59 is still at 53. So the work is done. All the work that we needed, we just had trouble with the fire alarm and the fire alarm panel, and we need some parts and get that replaced and fixed. So it could be another week. We have a draft fleet replacement plan that we're working on, and we are going to be meeting with the Fleet and Facilities Committee very soon, just to go over that fleet replacement plan that we're working on. It's going to have to marry with our budget, but Chief Black and Chief Johnson will be meeting with the Fleet and Facilities Committee very soon to go over that and get your feedback and input. To the bond. We got lots going on. First, tomorrow morning, I will be going to Fox Island. So there was a constituent that posted on social media that I responded to, and he has invited me to Fox Island tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock at Nichols Community Center. Apparently there's 15 or 20 guys that have coffee there every week. So I'm going to go there and talk to them about our bond and our service. Any of you are welcome to go with me if you'd like. It is at 9 o'clock in the morning at Nichols Community Center. The rest of the command staff has some ICS training, so they're unavailable. So I was just going to go by myself. I'm a big boy, I can handle it, but if any of you would like to go, you are welcome to go with me. That's at 9 o'clock in the morning. We are working on 3 open houses. We're going to do one at Fox Island Station 53, Station 58, and Station 51. We had originally scheduled Fox Island Station 53 for June, and we found out just today that the county is having a bridge update the exact same time and the exact same date. And so I doubt we'd have many people come. And we don't want people to have to choose between a bridge update and the station update. So we have a tentative scheduled now for July 13th at 6 p.m. We'll finalize that in the next day or so, but I think that's where we're going to land. July 13th, 6 p.m., Station 53. We are going to open the doors up. We're going to put chairs out. I'll be ready to talk about the bond and answer any questions. We're also going to do another one at Station 58 on July 23rd at 1:30. And we'll do one at Station 51 on July 27th at 6 p.m. So we'll have 3 open houses for our community. And those are the dates. I'm also speaking at the Chamber on June 23rd at 7 a.m. and at Kiwanis on July 13th at 7 a.m. So that's our open houses and the speaking that I'm doing on the bond. Let's see, last but not least, we negotiated yesterday. Commissioner Wilsey and I met with the union and we had our first negotiations. It was just ground rules and comps, and we agreed to those yesterday, and we'll send those out to you so you can see that. It was fairly quick and easy. We agreed on the same ground rules that we always have in the past. They seem to fit. And then the same comps that we did last year, other than there were some consolidations. So we got that finished yesterday. So that is all I have to report. So I'll stand for any questions or anything anybody else wants to ask me about.
Any questions for Chief? All right. Move on. Thank you, Chief. Like Chief said, standing committee reports. The negotiations committee met yesterday. Commissioner Ency wasn't able to make it, but we'll have him on Thursday for another follow-up. But yeah, it was fairly straightforward and simple. We agreed to the same ground rules and the same comps. So there was a little bit of talk of adding Burien, but that would bring in the addition of Shoreline 2, which would just pretty much cancel each other out. So there wasn't any point in doing that. So we just stuck with what we already had. Any other standing committee reports? Anybody else meet that I was unaware of? All right. I don't have anything for chairman's report tonight. Is there any old business that needs to come before us? Any old business? All right, hearing none. Let's move to new business. Looks like we have an annual performance report from Chief Oldenburg.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to share my screen if you'll let me know when you can see it. Does everybody see the annual report? All right. So included in your packets was our 2021 annual performance report for the jurisdiction. And I don't want to go through it in its entirety tonight, but I will hit the major sections of it. And then we can stand for questions at the end. Let's see here. So it just starts off with our general mission and vision statements here and a little bit of description about the organization. We move into the organizational structure here, and then we also talk about our geographic response area. Some of the things that are included in the performance report here that we would like to provide both to our internal customers and the community also meet our requirements for RCW 5233 on fire protection districts annual performance requirements at the state level. So we included those requirements inside of this annual performance report, so we won't have to complete two separate reports in the future if the format stays the same. So that's why some of these things are described this way, like geographic area and some of the other titles that are in the report itself. That's to meet other reporting requirements as well. We talked a little bit about our budget and our property tax or our revenue sources here for the jurisdiction. One thing I would like to note on the service call numbers here, they're asterisked and it's annotated at the bottom. We had to use two different sources for these numbers. In Terra, the product that has been demonstrated to the commission did not have historical years of data. We started that in 2021. So we did have a complete year of 2021, but we did not have years prior to that loaded into our current database and analytics tool. So these numbers were pulled from a couple of different sources for the data that's presented here, and that's annotated in this table. Then we just talk about a general description of the services that we provide here in Gig Harbor. And for the most part, the two large categories of responses, of types of responses that we respond to fire and medical calls. And also no report would be complete without a snapshot of the chief. So he's included in here as well. And then we get into actually the analytics. We just started with the basic analytics this time, turnout, travel, and response times. They're depicted in two different formats depending on which way you'd like to consume the data. There are tables here, and there's also graphs. And so I will bring your attention when we do look at the tables. You can probably see my little pointer here. We're shooting for 90th percentile here. So while some of the numbers look low, we can work on this turnout times for EMS calls. But when it comes to the fire calls, we're very, very close to hitting our performance benchmark in that category, which is very good for us. Let's see here. Then we talk a little bit about some of the geographical distinctions that we made in our fire response area. So we have three areas that we evaluate. They're broken down into municipal, rural, and remote. That is their driving distance from a fire station. And our performance measures are separate for each one of those three types of areas that we respond to, and we track those independently and measure our performance. Again, we have that broken down here. This is our arrival time for our first responding unit to those calls. I will bring your attention to this number here on the fire suppression, where it's very close to the same number when we're talking about the rural and remote times. We did do a little bit of background investigation and validated this number. There's very few calls in regards to fires annually. So there is two outliers that were in the rural response fire area that had extended or protracted response times. So therefore that pushed this number up. That number is actually correct, and we have validated that. But a small number of responses, 1, 2, or 3 fire responses can skew these rural and remote numbers by quite a bit. Again, I talked about earlier, two different ways that we've presented the data here. I will again draw your attention to the highlighted red area. We are very close to meeting some of our response goals in the 90th percentile. Again, this is our first year of doing these performance measures. This is our first annual report running this data. And we may, after subsequent years and a larger data set, have to move some of these organizational goals, and that's totally okay. If we can't meet a goal, there's no use having a goal that we will never achieve. So we're aware of that fact. Some of these may need to change in the future, but we would like to get a little bit more data, a little bit larger data set before we actually embark on changing those. But some of these appear to be pretty close to what our end result performance measures might be, because we are pretty close to achieving those 90% fractiles right now. And that is the end of report. Some of the explanatory statements here again are requirements for us to comply with the RCWs. And so that is our first annual performance report. It's a little bit delayed in its production, but I would say we were busy with a lot of the bond stuff, and we anticipate having this out earlier next year after the completion of the year. But I will stand for questions on the performance report.
A couple questions, Chief. So on page 8, which you're on right now, what I'm excited about is it looks like we're finally able to break out emergent versus non-emergent calls based on the data we're getting. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. So
Okay.
we are capturing that data field. I will caveat the statement with that takes some specific training from within our organization. But yes, you are correct. Moving forward, we will be evaluating emergent calls only, and we have separated that data in this table.
Because I know in the standard of cover document, they weren't able to distinguish between emergent, not emergent responses, and it made the data look like the response times were way longer than they may have been. So I'm happy to see that. And then the other, I guess, question, or maybe this is something we can, kind of think about in the future, is that remote response area is basically Fox Island. And so with 59's crew moving out there for the last month-ish, is that an opportunity for us to look at that data while they were out there and be able to say, hey, if we staff that station, this is what the response numbers would look like out there, and perhaps bring that number way down in that remote category?
Yeah, I think actually you're exactly correct. So when 59 moves to 53s, and they're there right now, dispatch will recognize and respond them as engine 53. So now we will be capturing all of that data from the Fox Island location, station 53, and it will show up in the remote category. That's correct.
Because to me, it would be fascinating to see, okay, if that station is next up on the list to get staffed, here's what that number would look like if it's staffed. And if it's a dramatic reduction, we'd be able to say, okay, this is why this is important.
Absolutely. And we can even slice it not only for an annual report, but if we just want to do the analytics, Chief Meyer can pull it up for the time period it was staffed and look at those response times and see what it did to these numbers right here that we're looking at.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'd be
Yep.
interested in seeing that if we can pull that data at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
I have that data right now if you want me to provide it.
Sure. I'd love to hear it.
So going through in Terra, this is some of the things that Perry and I have been looking at. So if you're looking at dispatch to arrival, and this is just looking at Fox Island only as we're looking through some of this stuff. So dispatch to arrival from the start of the year till May 2nd, 59 and Medic 59 were in their own station. So Fox Island was not staffed, with the exception of 2 times we had staffed the station. We responded to 80 alarms, and 93% of the time that dispatch to arrival time was greater than 6 minutes and 50 seconds. when the station has been staffed from 5/3 to today, there's been 29 alarms out there. And using that same over dispatch to arrival over 6 minutes and 50 seconds, right now it's at 62% of the time. So roughly having that, again, small numbers and small time frame, but we're looking at a 30% increase to the good on response times to Fox Island right now.
And I don't have any other questions. I just want to say great job. I saw this and I thought it was fantastic.
I know, and this is some of the great data that Intera, the product that we all voted on to purchase just because of this, mostly is able to provide us. So I'm excited to see more data and to have that system in place a little bit longer. I think it'll be beneficial to everyone to see that good information.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions for Chief Oldenburg regarding the performance report? All right, Chief, then are we going to move on to the interlocal agreement for joint insurance purchasing? There you go.
Absolutely. So what's another item that's included in your packet? The document itself is Exhibit 8B, and it's a supplement to the master interlocal agreement with Pierce County. The commissioners are probably familiar with the master interlocal agreement that we have with a number of other fire protection agencies across Pierce County, kind of a consortium type where we purchase things as a larger group to get a better price, and then we each pay our proportionate share of that. This is just an agreement that we, myself and the other finance managers of the jurisdictions updated recently in regards to insurance policies that we'll be purchasing on behalf of the jurisdiction. So that's, we have commercial liability, automobile, umbrella. There's a whole number of insurances that we purchase off of this agreement. And so we did some minor provision updates to it to allow other agencies to join and leave the interlocal agreement. And so this is just almost a carbon copy of what it's previously been, but it is requiring the commissioner's signatures to bind our agency into agreement with other jurisdictions. So I would recommend approval of this, and I would stand for questions.
All right, any questions for Chief, or we're ready to vote? All right, hearing nothing, I'd entertain a motion to approve the interlocal agreement for joint insurance.
So move.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right, contract for fire protection services.
All right, also included in your packets is a copy of the contract for fire protection services that I'm sharing here as well. This is just basic fire protection service that we provide to four locations with Pierce County owned property. In return, Pierce County pays us the property value times our levy rate. And then a small portion is also allocated in case we do actually respond to those properties. There is some fee reimbursement there as well. Again, this is a very standard annual contract or multi-year contract, and so it's up for renewal. And I would propose that the commission approve, and I would stand for questions.
Not a question. I just note that I always abstain from this because Pierce County is my employer.
Received. Any other questions for Chief Oldenburg regarding the contract for fire protection services? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the contract for fire protection services?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ency,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey,
Yes.
and I will note that Commissioner Nelson is abstaining from vote.
And Tanya, I don't know if it's possible to do this. Might be not be a bad idea to break this one out into a second document, so I'm not a signatory to it as well. I don't know whether that matters or not, but because I abstained from it.
I will make sure that you're not asked for signature on it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else there, Chief Oldenburg?
No, sir.
All right, got it all. Okay, we'll move on to open public comment. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. Anybody wishing to make comment tonight? Looks like we got Carl. Hey, Carl, can you hear us?
Yep, now, you hear me?
Gotcha.
Good. I would hate to disappoint you folks and think that I hadn't read the detail that you all had sent out. I do have a couple of questions on the performance report. One of the components, when I went back and reviewed the standard to cover, and one of the components obviously is dispatch or call processing time. And I don't see anything about that in this report. What is it, and how does that compare to our goal?
I think Chief Oldenburg can answer better, but I'm pretty sure that we're struggling getting that information from South Sound 911. I had a meeting with them the other day, asking them to help us. But we're having trouble getting Fireview, or not Fireview, we're in Terra and looking at the right area at South Sound 911. And I think we might have got it fixed. Perry?
Yes, Chief, and thank you for your comments, Carl. What we did is, as soon as we had Intera running in live, we noticed that the data was inaccurate that was coming into Intera. And it gets a little bit complicated because the way that we retrieve data through the third-party software of Intera is we collect data through our records management system that's pushed from the computer automated dispatch system. So it goes from CAD to ESO to Intera. And so the mapping, and actually it's called the lookup table. So the pointing of the data set from ESO to CAD was looking at the wrong parameters, because the data that we were getting was saying that they're able to process dispatch calls in around 10 seconds or less at South Sound 911. And for those of us who know what takes place during a dispatch call, that's absolutely unattainable. So we reached back out to representatives with South Sound 911 and ESO, and we got them together and said, hey, can you take a look at this and try to rectify it? It looks like we're not getting the right data. They are still working on this, and we most recently found out that when we continue to inquire with South Sound 911 requesting, are you working on the Intera issue? They said, yes, we're working on it, but they were referencing a different Intera issue software, because Pierce County fire agencies are moving forward with an Intera product. And when we were asking about our Intera question, they were assuming we were asking about the other Intera product that they are creating through the consortium. So there was a mix-up for a couple of months in the dialogue back and forth. So that's the long answer behind what the chief explained is, yes, we're working on it. We do plan on potentially including that in our data moving forward, although that data is out of our control. That's a dispatching processing time, but we will track it. And we know it's inaccurate, and we did not want to include a known inaccuracy in this report.
I appreciate that. From the citizen standpoint, the thing I think any citizen is interested in is how long is it going to take for either the medic unit or the fire engine to get to my location when I call 911. So even though parts of it are not controlled by the department, it's still important for the citizen to know how long, what should I expect in timing. I had another question on travel time. I looked at SOC and I don't know that we set up an organizational goal for travel time. Am I missing it?
You are not missing that. That was not established in the standard of cover.
Is there a particular reason why not?
I will defer to those who were here when it was created. I was not employed here, so maybe Chief Meyer can answer that, or Chief Dunn.
I don't know if I can answer why it wasn't included, other than, like we've talked about, standard of cover was our first shot. It wasn't perfect. And every day we went through Intera, through our organization, we continue to try to improve and make things better. So it will be included in future ones, and it's included now. So I don't have a good answer for you other than no, it wasn't included.
But did I understand, are you saying we're going to set an organizational goal for travel time?
Well, yes and no. We'll report it, but travel time is travel time, right? The only thing that we can control is we'll have a complete response time. The most important things are like you said, Carl, how long does it take us to get there? The total time, right? And then we can break it down into dispatch. We can break it down into turnout. We can break it down into travel, and we can watch that. But the most important thing is how long is it taking us to get there, and what can we affect? When it comes to travel time is travel time, right? Because we can't drive any faster. We can't improve the roads. We can't do those things. So usually travel time, it is what it is. We drive at the speed limit or a little bit over. And so we're continuing to work on it. I say our standard of cover and all of our response times are like a target on the wall. We didn't even have a target a year ago. We got a target now. It's a pretty big one, and we're going to keep narrowing it in and getting closer and closer and better and better. So we'll have a effective firefighting response force is very important for us. Total response time is very important to us, and we'll continue to report on those things. I don't know if that satisfies you.
Well, you know me, I'm never satisfied.
No,
that's a joke.
Right.
That was a little humor.
That's okay.
A couple of things. My caution is that as we refine the target, that we don't end up shooting the arrow on the barn wall and then painting the target around it. I'd hate to see that happen.
Well, frankly, we kind of will, in some ways, because there's no need to set a goal and to exaggerate that we're going to set a goal in Gig Harbor of 4 minutes, because we'll never ever make it. So in some ways we will do that, Carl. We will be moving the goal line very soon, as Chief Oldenburg talked about, because there's no need in putting a goal out there that's unattainable and just saying that we don't make it ever. Our performance is what our performance is, right? And there's some things that we could change, and it's like turnout time, but we can't change the other things. And so we're going to have response time standards. There's 3 of them of the areas near the station and in the urban areas, then the remote, and then and we will be moving the goal line.
Well, then we shouldn't be calling them goals if we're doing that. So that's fine. I got some question. I've talked to you before from a citizen standpoint. Even the measures we have, don't measure what I think are important. The important thing is not when the unit arrives, but when the unit touches the patient or the victim, or when the water hits the fire. Those aren't measured now. I think they could be now with the new system, but they're not. So I think there's a lot of things from, again, a citizen looking at performance. There are things that can improve. I'm not going to belabor this. Maybe Perry and I could get together. We haven't met yet in person. I've got some detailed questions in this. For instance, if the 90th percentile on the fire time, arrival time is 90% or 9 minutes and 3 seconds, and travel time's 8 minutes and 19 seconds, that doesn't add up to turnout time being 2:30. The only thing that's left in that equation is 44 seconds. And so I'm not sure about some of the numbers, and rather than belabored here, Perry, maybe you'd be available.
Yes, I'd be more than happy to meet with you, or Chief Myers may be the more appropriate person to meet with you because he is our operations chief, but either one of us would be more than happy to answer your questions.
I'm happy to meet with either one, and Chief Myers, maybe we meet for coffee again. We happen to be in the same coffee shop at the same time. We didn't meet to have coffee.
All right, Carl, and I wanted to add a little bit on top of those two things. And I want to say that, Commissioner Sedich and myself attend pretty much every South Sound 911 meeting there is. And between the two of us, we're keeping a close, watchful eye on a couple of things that have happened recently at South Sound. They've gone to a different dispatching software called Priority Dispatch, which gives basically the call taker a script that they have to answer, before they end up dispatching any units, which could be problematic, right? With the time that's taken to check the boxes to get the unit going. The next thing they did after that was switch to universal call taker. So instead of having a defined police call taker dispatcher and a fire call taker dispatcher, they've lumped it all into one person that answers the call and then processes the call and then sends it to a dispatcher to send it out. Now, that's supposed to create efficiency, but we'll see how that goes. It's in its infancy right now, and Commissioner Sedich and myself will be paying close attention to that, because we agree with you. We do not want to see an increased dispatch time. That's one of those areas where we should be really getting calls out quicker, especially with the technology we have. And then on the second thing with just Intera, I'll say we're put ourselves into a position, being an old CAD person, Ken and myself, knowing the information you get out of the CAD is only as good as the information that gets put into the CAD, right? Sure. Which is done by people, which sometimes is good. And then sometimes they forgot to push the button and then it skews all the numbers and you don't end up with good data. Where Intera, however, has the GPS tracking locators for the rigs, and we will start to get a true sense of when that rig started to roll and how long it took it to get there. And we can, parse it down to get that information, this is probably the first time ever that we'll have good data to go off of for total response time, Carl. So I appreciate your questions and I share your same concerns. And we will be keeping a watchful eye on it.
Okay, appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Anybody else wishing to address the board tonight? All right. Seeing none other, we will move on to good of the order. Anybody have anything for good of the order? I'll just thank all the crews on duty and off that participated in the Gig Fest, Maritime Fest, as it's known to some of us. I saw that this was one of the first ones I wasn't able to be at. I was out of town with my son at a baseball tournament, but I appreciate everybody's involvement in their representation of Fire District 5 and Gig Harbor Fire. It's always a great event, and everybody does an awesome job. So thank you to everybody that was down there and participated. So, okay. Any other special interests or upcoming events? Hearing none. This meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday. Okay, hold on. Joe, you got a question or something? Or are you just waving by? You're waving by. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, June 28th at 5 p.m. Just a reminder, as Chief said at the beginning, we will have personnel at headquarters if you need to come in person to participate in the meeting. Other than that, the Zoom invite and the YouTube recording will be available for everybody. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.